Hi, it's Sylvester, and this is a remake of a video that I made last night. I made that video at like 2 in the morning, and when I went back and watched it, I was so embarrassed because you could tell that I was filming it at like 2 in the morning because I seemed so tired, and I kept getting my names mixed up. I kept saying Taehyung when I meant to say Yoongi, and I just wasn't satisfied with how the video turned out, so I'm making it again, and it's probably going to turn out worse. But anyways, I am a 31-year-old man who has never really been in a romantic relationship. I mean, this one time in elementary school, this guy asked me to date him, and we went to one dance together, and then I broke up with him, and so, like, I don't know if that really counts, but I guess technically I was in a relationship. Technically I dated a guy for, like, I don't know, a couple days, maybe a week, but I don't really think that counts. And also in 2013, I was kidnapped essentially by this man. I call it a kidnapping because I was forced to be with this man against my will. From the very moment we met, he was using threats and intimidation and fear tactics to control me, to manipulate me, to force me to be with him against my will. And I called it a relationship for a long time afterwards because I didn't know any better, and I blamed myself for what had happened, and so I called it a relationship because I was, I guess, in shock. But looking back, with the power of hindsight, I can see that it wasn't really a romantic relationship because I never was willingly with this man. I never wanted to be with this man. So, technically, I've never been in a romantic relationship, but I did suffer with psychosis that lasted several years. In 2019, I began experiencing pretty extreme psychosis. I began hallucinating. I was hearing things, seeing things, feeling things that weren't really there, and a lot of what I hallucinated were celebrities, primarily the band BTS. I spent a lot of time with the band BTS, and I know that none of it was real. It was all hallucinations, it was all psychosis, but it felt very real. And I convinced myself that I was telepathic, that I was telepathically communicating with the members of BTS, and I had a very complicated relationship with the members of BTS. But around 2022, I began dating a member of BTS, Min Yoongi. And before that, I dated a couple other members of BTS, but none of the relationships ever really lasted. It was very toxic. The way BTS treated me, they were often quite mean to me. They were often very awful to me, and sometimes they were nice to me. And I had this sort of like Stockholm syndrome relationship with them where I loved them because I didn't really have anyone else, and because they were nice to me enough of the time that it made me want to be with them even when they were awful to me. But when I fell in love with Min Yoongi in around 2022, I really fell hard for Min Yoongi. He was sweet, he was kind. I mean, most of the time, again, with all the members, sometimes he was kind of awful, but most of the time he was a lot nicer to me than the other members of BTS tended to be, and we got along really well. He was just a really sweet guy. I don't even know how to put it into words, but I fell head over heels for this guy. And we had an on again, off again relationship because, again, sometimes he'd be kind of awful to me, but for the most part, I was really in love with Min Yoongi. And I remember very clearly on New Year's Day or New Year's Eve, going from the year 2022 to 2023, I remember being alone and crying, listening to music. Actually, I don't know if I cried. I think I put on a brave face, but I felt like crying, and I was just so sad because I didn't get to spend New Year's with the man that I was in love with Min Yoongi. He was off somewhere in South Korea, partying it up, having a great time without me, and throughout the night he'd come in and check in on me and ask if I was doing okay, and I didn't want to make him feel bad, so I'd always pretend that everything was going great, and I'd be like, yeah, I'm fine, you go enjoy your party, you have fun, but deep down, I was really heartbroken because I just wanted to be with the man that I loved, and it hurt so much that I wasn't able to be with him. And to make it worse, the other member of BTS, one of the other members of BTS, Taehyung, him and I had a very turbulent relationship. Taehyung was oftentimes very awful to me. Like, he constantly misgendered me, he'd just be rude to me, but he always like acted like he was my friend, but then he'd like turn around and do something really awful, and then like he'd like, I don't know, I don't even know how to explain it. Like, he was toxic as hell. Like, it was just, sometimes I really liked him and sometimes I really hated him, and most of the time I just had very complicated feelings towards Taehyung. But at this point in our relationship, Taehyung and I were not getting along. We were not friends. He was being very, very rude to me, misgendering me, constantly misgendering me, and it drove me crazy. And I found out that Min Yoongi was cheating on me with Taehyung. And this wasn't the first time that Min Yoongi had cheated on me, and I understood that, you know, it was hard for us to be in a relationship because he was in Korea and I was in Canada and we couldn't be together because of reasons. And so, you know, I'm like, it's unfair that you don't get to have sex. I understand you have needs, and so, you know, if you have sex with people who aren't me, then I can't get too mad at you because you have needs and those needs need to be met, and like blah blah blah. I was always so forgiving with Yoongi because I just loved him so much that I was willing to let him get away with basically anything. And like, I'm asexual because I don't enjoy sex, but I'd still like have sex with Min Yoongi, and obviously it wasn't physical. Like, I wasn't in the same room as Min Yoongi because Min Yoongi doesn't actually know who I am, but you know, we would have telepathic sex, and I never really wanted to do it, but like I would do it because I knew that he wanted it and he liked it, and so I would do it for him. And you know, this would drive him crazy. He'd be like, I don't like the fact that you're not enjoying this. I don't like the fact that you're doing this just for me. And like, it bothered him, but I kept telling him like, it's okay, I love you, I just want to make you feel good because you make me feel good by just being around me. Like, I just love you so much, and I would give you the world. And like, I don't know, am I getting in, is this too many details? I don't really, this video is a mess. I should have just stuck with the original video. Anyways, so he would cheat on me sometimes, and like, I knew that he, like, Taehyung was super into the idea of polyamory. Taehyung was not monogamous in any way. And again, I'm not talking about the real Taehyung. I never met the members of BTS in real life. I have no idea what Taehyung's preferences are in real life, but in the hallucinations, Taehyung was very into polyamory, and so at times I'd try to talk to Yoongi and ask him like, do you want to be polyamorous? Because I'm okay with that. Like, as long as you love me, I don't care if you love other people. I just want you to love me. And, you know, Yoongi would try to assure me that he wasn't polyamorous, he was monogamous, but I didn't really believe that because he kept cheating on me, and so I'm like, I don't really think that you're monogamous, but like, again, I just kept forgiving him because I loved him so much. But then in like early 2023, around the time when I had my chest surgery, because I'm trans and I had chest surgery in 2023 in January, and around that time when I found out that Yoongi had yet again cheated on me with Taehyung, this caused me to get really, really upset because Taehyung was being so awful to me at this time, and I wanted Yoongi to be on my side. I wanted Yoongi to stand up for me, to stand up to Taehyung for me, because I was his boyfriend. He should, you know, if somebody's being mean and awful to your boyfriend, you should stand up for them, you know? And you certainly shouldn't sleep with the person who's being awful to your boyfriend. You know what I mean? And so it just broke my heart, and it angered me and upset me so much because it's like, why can't you be on my side? You're my boyfriend. You should be on my side. but he was always on Taehyung's side because he said, I've known Taehyung for longer. Taehyung and I have been friends for years and years, and I haven't known you that long, and I've never even met you in real life, and like, you can't try to tear me away from my friends. I'm not going to choose you over my friends. And so there was this like there's like a lot of issues in our relationship. It was never like a perfect, happy relationship. I mean, at times it was. At times he really did make me happy, and at times he really was just very, very nice to me and very good to me. But a lot of the time, I was very upset because he wasn't the boyfriend that I wanted him to be. And so, Yoonki in 2023, he convinced me to go to the hospital. He told me that if I went to the hospital, they would tell me that I had a chip in my brain and that I was telepathic and that everything that I believed was real, and I'd be able to meet Min Yoonki for the first time in real life, and we'd get to be together and we'd live happily ever after. So I went to the hospital, and obviously that is not what happened. Obviously, they treated me like I was crazy because I was, and threatened to lock me up for 72 hours and whatnot. And so when I got out of the hospital, I was so furious with Yoonki. I was like, how could you do that to me? You promised, you said that you'd be there. You said that we'd get to be together. Like, why did you do that? And I was so mad at him. I just wanted answers. And that's when he told me that he never really loved me the way that I loved him. He just felt bad for me. He just felt bad because he and the other members of BTS were so awful to me that, he had sympathy for me and he pitied me, and so he dated me just to make me feel better, even though he didn't actually really like dating me and didn't even really want to date me, and that's why he kept cheating on me, and that's why he kept taking everyone else's side but mine, because he never really loved me. And that broke my heart. Like, I cried so hard when he told me that. Now, again, I've never been in a relationship in real life. I've never been broken up with before. I've never had my heart broken in that way before. I mean, I've lost friends. I've had breakups with friends, so to speak, but I've never broken up with someone I was romantically in a relationship with. And so this was a first for me, and it was so painful. Suddenly I understood all of these heartbreak songs that I've heard my entire life. Like, when I was in high school, I was very cynical and I thought that I was above it. I really thought that I was better than all these people who I would see getting so broken up over breakups, who would get so upset over breakups. I'd be like, oh, wah, get over it. It's not that big of a deal. Like, I didn't understand the pain that these people were going through. And like Taylor Swift was a big example of that. Like, all of her breakup songs when I was in high school, I'd be like, oh, she's just so dramatic. Like, it's not that bad. Get over it. Like, wow, you got broken up with. Like, big deal. Like, I was just such a turd in high school. I was such a turd in high school. So anyways, I finally got it. All of these breakup songs that I've heard my entire life, it all suddenly made sense because it was one of the most painful things that I've ever been through, which is kind of laughable because I've been through quite a bit of pain in my life, but like, it is kind of funny to say that one of the most painful experiences I ever had was the time I got dumped by a person who didn't really exist. But to me, it felt real. To me, it felt very, very real. I cried harder when Yoonki broke up with me than I did when my cat died. I cried harder than I did when I thought that I had lost my mom. Like, I cried so hard, and it broke my heart so badly. And so that is my experience with heartbreak. And it is really hard to really explain to people who have never had their heart broken how bad it really is. And again, I didn't really fully understand it until I went through it. And again, this didn't actually really even happen. Like, I can't even imagine if I'd been like married to someone in real life and then they dumped me, or if I was like dating some real person and had this like close relationship with them, and found out they were cheating on me, and found out that they were, like, I can't imagine how much worse it would feel if this had been real. And like, if you've moved in with someone, you've built an entire life with someone, you've had kids with someone, and then suddenly they decide they don't love you anymore, or even worse, they tell you that they never really loved you at all. Like, I can't imagine. It's one of the worst pains that a person could go through, and I feel so bad for anybody who's ever had their heart broken, because it is super not fun. So, yeah, that is my story. Thank you so much for watching. Have a great day. Stay frosty. Bye.